Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today I want to spend some time talking about Android's descent into Oblivion. And people have asked for a while what is my interest in the Librem 5 phone from Purism that is scheduled to come out here in only a few months now. January 19 apparently is when these should be shipping. And honestly, I'm not necessarily an early adopter of that phone, but some of the things I'm seeing in the Android world right now are kind of making me maybe rethink that direction a little bit. So let's talk about that a little bit more down the road. But first, let's just kind of talk about what happened. Why am I even examining this concept? Of course, if you follow all my channels and things, you know that my Nexus 5X, I had a unfortunate mishap with my other one. And I do keep regular backups and things. So I'm like, oh, no big deal. Get me another one of them and restore backup. Well, for whatever reason, the backups were not able to be restored. Some of it, I think, has to do with when you make a backup with twerp, there is a hidden system file that needs to come with that backup, that without that hidden system file, you cannot back the phone up. Now, there's ways that you can, in theory, regenerate or re-trick the thing, but whatever reason that was not reinstalling the operating system, I would actually have to have the operating system back on the phone prior to running the backup, and then it would actually have allowed me to work. But there's one problem. Lineage, which is apparently supposed to be a good and an open source system, it's supposed to be a platform to make the most out of your phone, to give you more control back into your phone. Well, guess what? They do not actually allow you to download older versions. I downloaded version 14 off of this. The problem is version 15 is based on Oreo, and there's some problems. One of the biggest issues on Oreo is a lot more battery consumption. The phone is using less, I have less time on a single battery charge. Now, I'm still experimenting to see if I can move some things around to increase the battery length. It's yet to see. There's some things about Oreo that I certainly like. As much as I'm not a huge fan of gestures, I find that the few gestures that the thing has are actually pretty decent. Getting to the applications and the notifications can be a little bit easier. A downside, though, is I've lost a lot of the other control that I used to have. For example, I'm now left with my my fairly ugly big old match default, how Android clumps everything together. I really liked how Lineage did it alphabetized in lines. I don't have that option anymore. I lost a lot of granular control with notifications and things like that. And so those are all a bunch of little things that, well, not huge big deals, are big enough for me to not really care for it quite as much. So overall, I don't hate it. I'm not like, oh my God, this is horrible. But the problem is, we're losing control of our devices. Of course, this is still a good device. The Nexus 5X is still a good device. It will not get the latest version of Android, but whatever. But here's the biggest problem. Lineage, which is supposed to be around to give us more use of our device, more customizability, more flexibility, more control, why do they restrict what versions I have available to me? And I looked around to find anywhere on the net. The only place I could find anything related to Lineage 14 is unofficial builds from a source that I'm not completely sure I trust. But even there, we don't have enough documentation to know which Android to sit on top of it or whatever else. Now, this is problematic. If you go to Google's specific page for this, you can still get Marshmallow. I can get Nougat. I can get Oreo. I can get any version of these. I can get the older versions, and I can reflash this phone to be any version number at all. And I've tried this to see if I could verify everything. Now, I have all my basic data backed up. I didn't lose my text messages. I didn't lose my contacts. I didn't lose my emails. I didn't lose anything because of the way that I have my system set up. Utilizing some of those services just do manual backups. Some of those services do things through my Nextcloud instance. For example, all of my text messages are backed up on my Nextcloud instance. Actually, those are backed up on one of my email instances. But regardless, I have those. I don't lose them. But the thing is that Google allows me to take this phone and put any version of Android on this that I want. Lineage is starting to restrict me, and Lineage is supposed to be the one that allows me more options. Now, yeah, there are a few other ROMs out there, but nearly every ROM is built on top of Lineage. Did you know that? And so I'm not totally aggravated and disgusted, but it is very disappointing, because the problem is that with each of these devices, with each new version that comes out, we are losing more functionality, we are increasing bloat, and we are losing more and more control over our individual devices. So as far as Lineage is concerned, I can't go backwards. If there was a serious compatibility issue that specifically dealt with Lineage 15 on this particular device, and it's like, well, I can't do 15, but I can probably do 14, I'd be sunk in the water, because they've restricted my options. They've restricted my choice. They've gotten rid of that, and that's problematic. Not a problem with Lineage, because Lineage is fairly bloat-free, but nearly every device now outside of the stock Android from the Google line is coming with so much bloat that when my Nexus blew up, now I actually keep a very nice dual flip phone here, which according to my cell phone carrier, these you really can't put on the networks anymore. They need a manager override, and it's a pain in the butt, and they got to do this, and then it kills your SIM card when you throw this on your account. And so the only way for me to not lose the number when I was going through is... and this is the other thing, carrier annoyance. I actually spent half an hour on the phone with Verizon today to tell them, stop sending me stupid messages. I don't want verifications, whatever else. Guess what I just got? A free message from Verizon. Thank you for your call. Blah, 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 blah. I hope you are happy. Well, screw you, Verizon. I just told you to leave me alone. Not sending me messages. Period. We're losing control here, folks. We're losing control. So anyway, when the Nexus had died, I got a Samsung just to, bridge the gap. I'm like, I don't like Samsung products. But it's like, let me give it a try. I did a Samsung Galaxy J3. That thing had multiple layers of bloat. It had Google bloat that I could not uninstall. I could disable most of it, but I could not uninstall it. But then it had the Samsung bloat that I could not even uninstall. And that is a huge, huge, huge problematic thing for me. That is, the reality is that I want to make sure that whatever I get, I have full control over. And Android is getting to the point where it is so bloated, but we cannot remove things. We cannot take things out. We cannot take control over our devices, even if we're doing custom ROMs, because it's getting harder and harder to install a custom ROM on these things. There is no Lineage build for the Galaxy J line. People are saying you couldn't put Lineage on Galaxy S9s, but apparently you can. They have one for S9. They have one for the Note 8. Apparently you still can. But this brings in another issue, is that on the Samsung phones, if you install a custom ROM or you root the phone, it trips this thing called Knox in the phone. And that cannot be reset back. So if I factory reset everything, they still see that, and they will not honor a warranty because I simply chose to install software on it. Even if I'm able to return that phone back to the original state with available software that is on the internet, I cannot return that phone. That allegedly voids warranty. They are taking control of our devices. We are losing complete control. Okay, on top of that, we are losing features. I've lost granular control of notifications on Oreo 8. I had everything set up perfectly on Nougat. Oreo, I've lost some granular control of some things. I don't like the system as much. I'm left with perpetual home screen notifications that I don't want to get, because I want to say, this app, I don't want to see notifications just on the home screen, but I don't care if I see them in other places. I don't have that option anymore. We're losing control. We're losing those. Of course, with Android now, pretty much all of them that are out there, you're locked into having all of these intrusive G apps that you can disable, but you can't uninstall. And that's kind of problematic in its own right. A lot of information came out recently about Google tracking everything that you're doing, whether or not you have locations or tracking or anything else turned on the device. And that is kind of a problematic thing. And so in reality, we are losing control of our devices. We are completely losing control. And so I can say that while I'm not really an early adopter, the Purism phone for me is looking a whole lot more attractive. This is, of course, a phone done by the Purism. It is called the Librem 5 phone. And the chief selling points of this is it is completely open source software. It is running with a pure Linux core with 3 desktop environment capabilities. They have GNOME, which I believe Purism is working on. They have Plasma Mobile, which of course the KDE team is working on, and UBports took over Ubuntu Touch when Canonical abandoned the Ubuntu project. And so you can get 3 different desktop environments for now on this, and probably the way Linux World works, we'll have a few more. So you'll have the options to have this phone. Now, the other major selling points of the phone is that it has physical manual toggle switches for the cellular, for the wireless, and for the microphones, I believe. Let me see if I can find that. So this is the thing about, if you're unaware of Lineage, Lineage runs on top of Android. I have to say, if I'm going to run Lineage 15, which is based on Oreo, I have to have Oreo on my device. And then once Oreo is on my device, then I can install Lineage on top of Oreo. So I have to have the Android on there first. Now, it does remove a lot of the things. The installation process does remove all the closed source Google stuff. So the Lineage phone is much better. The advantage of it, of course, is that it runs with all of the applications we're all used to. The Librem 5 phone is a pure Linux core, so applications would need to be built in. In theory, it should be able to run anything that will run on Linux. The downside is that we have to have you have to have a GUI that supports a phone, which is certainly a different instance than just a basic a website or anything else. It is 5-inch. Security is in design. They have 3G and 4G compatible. I'm not sure if it has CDMA or is it CMDA, whatever it is, for Verizon. I think they have GSM though, so you can certainly use them with AT&T or any of the other GSM ones, just not Verizon, which is the unfortunate thing that I know of. They might. I might be wrong. If somebody knows I'm wrong, for sure, let me know. There's all sorts of things under this excessive line of quotes. This is kind of poorly put together a website. You can see over here on this image, these are those toggle switches here. So the toggle switches will focus. I think this is cellular. I think this is microphone. I think this is wireless, cellular, and microphone. I think so. We have a few different options. This one I think looks like the Plasma Mobile version. So you can do cellular carrier. You can do it with just on Wi-Fi. Let's see, there's hardware, here's software. So, of course, here's the Plasma Mobile, here's the GNOME. They should have the Ubuntu one, too. Maybe that's not ready yet. I don't know. I know they're working with them. So, it can run Pure OS, Debian, Ubuntu, Fedora, SUSE, Arch Linux with ARM, and Subgraph OS. It can connect with laptops, monitors, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, iOS devices, Android devices, whatever else. We can connect to a variety of things. So it is definitely a good phone. 5-inch touchscreen, MX8 CPU. I'm not a hardware guy, so I can't tell you about all of the specs of all this kind of stuff. We do have a micro SD slot. Hell, a headphone jack. I'm a customer. Sold. Okay, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4, USB Type-C. There's batteries. I'm not sure if the battery is built in or if you can swap them. GPS, accelerometer, gyroscope, compass, ambient light, proximity, hardware kill switch. Okay, 4 hardware kill switches. I only saw the 3. One for camera, one for microphone, one for baseband, and one for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Those are all really good. There's some tech specs on there. Now, the downside for me is, I mean, it's a good phone and it's good for the price, but I still don't pay $600 for phones. That's my holdout point. When I can start seeing these on the used market, if I can start seeing, another type of phone, or, in a few years when they drop the price, I'll be a customer. I'm not going to be an early adopter unless somebody wants to gift me one. But the downside for me is that the price is still a little high. Who knows? Maybe I'll be rolling in money in three or 4 months. I doubt it, but it is a good phone. It is a good option, and I'm seeing that Android is descending into oblivion, and so something must rise out of the ashes, and hopefully that is going to be this phone. So those are my thoughts on Android's descent into oblivion. Don't forget you can support the channel by checking me out on Patreon, patreon.com/TomM. Check out the SwitchedtoLinux.com/support page, or the merchant shop, shop.switchedtolinux.com. Links for those and other links will be down in the description below.